Alright, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to American Truck Simulator. We do not have anything set for a drive today. Having a few issues with some hardware, as I will explain in just a minute, but we are going to do a couple other things. I did have some updates here on the whole dashboard build, on some of the buttons. I've got some tips for those of you that may have run into a couple snags just like I have. I think the rule is if you have a question, at least 10 other people have that same question. So I'm going to be going over a few tips and tricks that I found to work out all the button situation. And so it's basically going to be around the buttons and the box. I will explain in the beginning how I'm having some hardware issues that makes it pretty much impossible to do a drive right now. So for those of you who are looking for a drive, that is not happening today. I will have one. I'm sure I'll have it all straightened out for my video this coming Sunday. But today it's going to be all about developments in the buttons and the box and the dashboard and all that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in that, definitely stick around. And one other thing, thanks to you guys, I now officially have 1,000 subscribers to HatreyuGaming. Thank you guys. I appreciate it so much. I might have to do some sort of contest or some sort of giveaway pretty soon to thank you guys. I know you guys like that, and I do want to give back for sure. Thanks for subscribing and watching and all of the comments that go on. You guys are even having conversations off on your own now, which is a good thing. I can't be there for absolutely everything, but I'm trying. So let's go ahead and get into this. The first issue that I have, I'm having a hardware issue where I don't know what's going on. I frequently have one profile where I will mess with the controls.sii file. And the reason for that is because that's the profile that I run all of my twin stick setups in. So I'll have a 6.4 Spicer, a 5.4, I'll have a Mac 5.3, a Mac 6-speed twin stick, and so on. Bunch of different transmissions and shift patterns. And for some reason, sometime between yesterday and today, I realized that when I opened up the game, that profile was duplicated. I didn't do it. That profile was duplicated, and the one that was duplicated is marked disabled and has a whole bunch of errors in it. It even has some other mods that I've never even used in it before. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know how if my account or game could get hacked or something. It's more likely something stupid that I did. So what I ended up doing was I ended up taking one of my pre-existing twin stick transmissions and shift patterns, and I threw it in there, and the sticks weren't reacting. They weren't reacting right, so I was like, you know what? Let me just take this back. I'm going to take the original controls file, controls.sii file, which I always keep the original, and I'm just going to throw it in, because all you have to do is take the original controls file and throw it back in, and it becomes configured for a single stick, just like my other profiles. And the reason why I'm doing that instead of going to another profile is because I only have one profile right now that's currently working. The rest have over 150 mods in them. Most are not compliant, and I haven't had the time to sit down for 2 or 3 hours and isolate all the problems and make it clean. So I just decided, let's make it single. I took the original controls file, put it back, and then I went into use a transmission from Fury 6, and this particular transmission is a single stick. It's the TM309, so it's a 9-speed, 3 low, 6 highway, and 6 reverse gears. And the way that thing is coded, and I checked the code, double-checked it, and it's coded so that you're actually using the splitter and you're using the range in it. Splitter actually controls the reverse. Low range controls your low 3 gears. High range controls your top 6. and the splitter and the range aren't doing anything. They're responsive enough that if I go into the keys and buttons and I use the splitter or the range, I can actually assign a certain button to it. So I know it acknowledges it, but it will not acknowledge that shift pattern. I've got the gearbox layout file hooked up correctly. It's assigned to the truck. It's purchased in the truck, and it just won't shift. And then I did some experimenting, and it turns out in the controls file that's set up for a single stick, it's actually waiting for, and I don't know how it's doing this because it's not in the code. I know what code gets it to do this, but it's not there. Getting from the reverse mode to the low mode to the high mode, I just messed around. I used the second stick, and the second stick actually started taking over. And so I'm completely confused as to how. I mean, I've made many gearbox layout files, at least 15, and tweaked them, and I've made errors. This error I can't account for, so I don't know what's going on. And then I tried to reinstall it again, verify the files through Steam, and now both shifters are inoperable. I cannot shift at all. I guess I could have done a drive in an automatic. That's about it. That's why we're not doing a video today. So I need to figure out. There's lots of different issues going on, but I need to figure out why my sticks are basically not being recognized by the game. Well, they're recognized in the game to assign them. Like if I wanted to, for example, if I wanted, and I don't know why I would want to do this, but if you open the buttons, you could go to the shift button, which normally controls shift up or window down, whatever button assignment you want. And then I move the splitter or I move the range selector, and it works. It acknowledges it. But when I get in the truck, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not even in a standard 13 speed or 18 speed that comes with the game. They're inoperable. So I got to figure out, I might have to just delete a bunch of profiles, and maybe that's what I should have done anyway. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on. Moving on to the whole dashboard and box situation. So last time I had these two set up, and they go from bottom to top with a 15-degree angle, 15-degree pitch to them, so it'll make it a little bit easier. So instead of the gauges being completely flat like that, they're actually going to sit up kind of like that, which will be a better viewing angle. So I've added these. I've added this extra section. This is going to be where my main, I guess if you had a button box, this is where the button box is going to go. And I've installed these. Right now, I think I'm going to replace these. These are 2 half-inch pieces of drywall. I may just end up going with a solid block like this. This is not actual drywall. This is not plywood like these are. These are plywood. This is like a solid block. I think that might be better. And I may opt for this 3/4 size instead of this half size, because I think, like, as I'm going to show you here, basically what's going to happen, these are recessed in, and what I'm going to do is, there's a little notch here, and then this is the material that I'm using. You can kind of see it. It's a hard plastic. It's got texture to it, and all of my gauges are going to go through here, and then this is going to sit right on there. The problem is, for the pieces that I got, I've actually built my box a little bit bigger, so there's room on each side, and I'll have to fill in the gaps somehow. And this isn't straight either. That needs to be more straight. There we go. So I'm working out the kinks a little bit. So I've got this gap. I can either get a bigger piece of this. Maybe I'll go ahead and do that. Or I'll have to figure out how to fill in this gap somehow. But it's going to go from the bottom. It'll go all the way up to this top corner. And then they'll just screw in. So I'll just drill a hole and drive a screw right through there. And that should hold it pretty good. And if I need any additional support, then here in the middle, this is all makeshift, by the way. This is not where the buttons are going. This is going to be all my gauges. I may have to build some other supports, kind of like this one, like this one in the corner, just in the middle, and on each side of them I'll have so right in the middle of them I'll have like some vertical support if I feel like the middle is starting to buckle in a little bit. It's obviously supported here, but So that's basically what's going on. All of these, this side right here and this edge here all comes together. It's right off camera. I can kind of show you probably. Hold on. We look down, it just comes to a point. And right now this extra bracket is there to hold this piece, because all this piece is a very short, it's like 2.5 inches. And I have it there so I can still get some buttons on there. Because I had to worry about the, actually had to contend with the fact that in this design, see, I'm doing this for the first time, so learning some things. There's not a whole lot of room. I need to make sure that I have enough room back behind this panel, so it can't be right here on the corner where these two pieces come together. Otherwise, you can't actually get like a switch, like there's depth to it. So if that's going to go and lock in right there. It'll actually lock in to this panel, because I have another panel for the button box. It'll go through the panel and it'll lock in about right there. So I need that depth also to get the wires on the end. So that's kind of what we're doing now. Let me go ahead and reset this to somewhere about right there where you can see everything. And then after that, once I've got all, and you see the front, any piece that's going to be actually exposed, this is a self-adhesive vinyl wrapped leather. It's like a faux leather. So it has that texture of leather. I don't know if that really translates on the video, but it does in real life. So any part that you see here is wood, besides this long piece, any part that you see here as wood is not going to be exposed, because once this is finished up and I get the panels in, then I'm going to throw a lid on this, and it's going to be one piece. It's going to go all the way across and jut out and make this triangle shape for this. This is actually a 40-degree angle right here. And I basically just came up with it based on how much width I wanted here and how much width I wanted here. And this basically goes the width of the desk. So nothing is hanging off in that direction. It's only hanging off right here on this 40-degree angle. So that is the scoop. I'm thinking about making a lid for it, but not even bolting the lid on, because when I get the front panel on, like, that top isn't going to move a whole lot at all, but I may want to open it up, just take it off, set it aside without having to deal with any screws. And yeah, so then it would be nice and accessible to go down into these boxes and fix any wires or replace any buttons or anything like that. So yeah, basically that's what the dashboard's looking like right now. Once I get these panels cut, and I can't get these panels cut, by the way, I think I can do it with a fine-tooth blade on a circular saw that I have, but I've heard that it sometimes cracks plastic. So I'm actually waiting for. I should have already had this saw. It's a Dremel, I think, Ultra saw. And it has a special blade that's meant to cut hard plastic and not shatter it and crack it and stuff like that. I was supposed to get it today, ordered it online, was waiting probably around 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and got a notification that said your order has been canceled. So I guess they didn't have it in stock when they should have. Otherwise, maybe these panels would already be cut. But I'll get the panels in, then I'm going to cut out. I need to get some more of this vinyl wrap, this leather that you see, and then that'll wrap the entire dashboard. I'll set it on top, and then you won't see any of this wood anymore, again, except for this little panel here. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it. Should I just leave it wood? Should I paint it? Should I try to wrap that? Don't know. I think it might be a cool little signature, and I might like do the channel logo right here, something interesting. But last thing I wanted to talk to you about was the buttons. And if you remember from my last video, I was having issues where I couldn't get any of the buttons on this box to work. These are all in one box running off of one arcade USB encoder, and I figured out the reason. When I was testing it, I actually tested this button with Joy to Key, and the reason I just tested it just to see what it would look like. And how it would work. And all of these are controlled by Joy to Key. This one is working through joy to key, and because none of the rest of these buttons were hooked up, that is my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong. I couldn't get the wipers to work, which are here. I couldn't get the windows to work, and I couldn't get the ignition to work. As soon as I assigned them in joy to key, along with this button, because this was already programmed in joy to key, then everything worked in the game. So maybe I don't understand it fully. This button was in joy to key, and none of the other buttons were, so none of the buttons worked. Now they're all hooked up through joy to key, and they all work. I also had one problem with this button. This was my original button, and this was, I thought something was wrong with the button, and it would come on sometimes, and, well, the light would always be on, but when I opened it up in the control panel to see if when I pressed the button, the actual hardware button lit up, and what would happen a lot is it would just light up and stay on, which means it's non-operable. And since it was the first button, this is the same button, by the way, these LED push buttons. And what happens, you can see that these are some tiny little pins, right? And so what I started with, because I'm using a USB encoder, you'll recognize these. These come with it. You have a little JST connector, and then you have these female spade connectors. And these are, what size are these? These are, I want to say that these are 187s is the size of them. These are 187s. And I was like, okay, so I can probably make those fit. So I put, you see you have a row of 3 right there in the middle. See if I can get a good angle. Yeah, so there's your 3 all lined up in a row here. And so I went and I tried to plug it in, and I was like, hey, that fits. But if you notice, even when you get it on tight, it has a tendency to wiggle because this is the wrong size. This is actually a little bit bigger. And what was happening was, even when it was tight, it was wobbling just enough, if I hit the box or move the box, that it was hitting the other contact. Not the bare contact, it was hitting like the other connector here, see? So if you see, I'm putting in 2 right next to each other. And right next to each other, if they wobble at all, they're going to end up hitting each other. These 2 points. This one and that one. And that's what was happening. The ones on the sides were a smaller size. I'll show you that in a second. But it was hitting, and every time it hit, I guess it would short it out, and the button would just stay on and not be operable anymore. So what I ended up doing, like I do for most of my buttons, is take these ends, snip them off, and then put on your own connector. As you can see, this is the 187. I believe it's 187. Yes, this is the 187 that comes on these cables, and this is the 110, the one that you should use. There's a decent size difference. So when I go ahead and I take this switch and I hook up one of these, like on the middle pole, if I can, right? I can't get it quite on. Sometimes these things are a little bit problematic. You can see that even it's going to have to move significantly to make contact with those other posts. Maybe that's a better angle. Yeah, that's kind of a good angle. So you would have to wobble it a lot left and right to be able to hit these other contacts with something plugged in. So all I did was I took that 187 size, this is a 110, put a new end on it, and then it didn't hit it, and then the button always works now. So make sure that you're using the right size when you're dealing with these connectors. Sometimes you can get away with using a bigger terminal here at the end, and it's easier, especially if it already comes wired like that and you don't have to worry about attaching it. But keep in mind, you're only going to be able to do that if you have significant spacing. Or for example, if you look at here, there are 5 pins on. I was talking about the 3 in this row. So I'm going to use that to point it out. 1, 2, and 3. Let me do that. Yeah, you can see there's 3 in that middle row. 1, 2, and 3. those are pretty close to each other. If I wanted to put one here on this top one or on this bottom one, I could go ahead and put a bigger one so long as it isn't going to fall off. So long as it's tight enough, then you're not going to have that problem where it's swaying around so it's going to hit another contact. So just be mindful of that and use the right terminals. I ended up getting a little kit here off of Amazon, and it has a whole bunch of male and female spade connectors. It's got these fork terminals, ring terminals. The yellow is a bigger diameter. Blue is a medium diameter. Red is the smallest one. So if you definitely want to have the blues and the yellows for splicing wires and having two wires go into the same one. Lots of little tips that I'm learning as I'm going. It's not exactly the most straightforward process, especially if you don't have experience with buttons and electronics and you're trying to figure out what goes hooked onto what. And it's easy to also get misled because some of these buttons and switches, they have wiring guides, and the wiring guides don't always really matter. Like, yes, it's good to identify what's the positive. So yeah, it is important to know what's the positive, what's the negative, where is it, which post is going to lead to my load and stuff like that. But most of the videos always talk about like hitting a switch and then you can see an actual light bulb go off. Well, what happens when the load that you're trying to activate is digital? And what happens when instead of 5 cables, you only have 2? So you have to improvise a little bit. So whenever I learn any of these tips, most of the time by doing them wrong, I like to share them with you. So let me know if you guys have any comments or questions down below. What might be affecting why my sticks won't work, any ideas, or I thought this was a good idea. I do have this gap here in the middle. This is not the best idea for a build. Obviously, I made it a little bit more complex on myself by doing this 15-degree angle. Maybe I should have just made it like a standard box and then inside had this angle. But I feel like this is a better design. It looks better to me. Looks more, I don't know. I was going to say professional. Maybe not in execution. Where the sides go along with the pitch or angle of your dash. That's kind of what I was going for, but I ended up making things quite a bit more difficult on myself, and it's actually got myself into a mess trying to figure out what to do with this corner here. And it's clean enough. I think what I'm going to end up doing is, this one's here only because there's one right on the inside. You can kind of see it if I tip the camera a little bit. There we go. You can see that there's a bracket right here. And it pulled it too far this way, so this is evening that out. That's the only reason why it's there, but I think I'm going to end up snipping this off. Especially once I get this piece in here, and that is pretty tight, and it's holding this piece up at the same time, then I can get rid of this bracket, and right where that red line is, just saw that off, and that way I don't have a point to run into. I also had to adjust my 2 sticks. I had to adjust them back down. So they were actually sitting on blocks, and now they are not sitting on blocks because I took them all the way to the floor. So they're only sitting about 3 or 4 inches. The crossbar is only about 3 or 4 inches where they're clamped onto. But that is kind of what I'm doing with the box and the buttons. Let me know if you guys have any questions, any comments, any tips. It's my first build. Please be nice. Constructive criticism would be preferred over, what an idiot. I can't believe he did that. You can think that. That's fine. I'm trying to learn from this, and maybe you guys have gotten some ideas off of mine. Maybe the only thing that you've gotten from this is, I had a similar idea, and now that I see him build that was dumb. Maybe I'm not going to do it that way. You don't have to tell me that, but maybe that'll help. Anyway, got a few things to sort out. I'll finish working on the box, get the top on, get these panels on. so I can start drilling holes for buttons and gauges and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll figure out my 2 sticks, and by Sunday we should have another drive going, and I won't have to show you about the dashboard and everything. But it is a pretty significant upgrade to now that I have this corner piece, now that I've got these uprights, and I can see how the panels are going to come together, how the buttons are going to be used. And it's kind of exciting. Kind of exciting. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this video. I was going to say thanks for coming along on the drive, but there was no drive at all. If you liked this content, if it helped you, if it just made you laugh or facepalm, whatever, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. We're just over 1,000 now. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can see all of my videos, and I will see you guys hopefully driving on the next one. Take care.